As the war in Iran rages on, U.S. President Donald Trump and his MAGA base are mulling over the course of the war. President Trump, who has already declared victory, is now listening to suggestions provided by MAGA and his aides. A tug of war is happening inside the White House as aides debate when and how to declare victory, even as the conflict spreads across West Asia. Economic advisors and officials, including from the Treasury Department and the National Economic Council, have reportedly warned Trump that an oil shock and rising gasoline prices could quickly erode domestic support for the war. Political advisors, including Chief of Staff Susie Wiles and Deputy Chief James Blair, are making similar arguments, urging Trump to focus on the political fallout from higher gas prices and define the victory narrowly. Pushing in the other direction are hawkish voices urging Trump to sustain military pressure on Iran, including Republican lawmakers such as U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton. They argue the U.S. must prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and respond forcefully to attacks on American troops and shipping. Trump is trying to juggle competing narratives that some critics say have complicated an already difficult situation with Iran defiant despite the devastating U.S.-Israel air assault. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has justified the tug of war, saying, quote, "The president is known for being a good listener and seeking the opinion of many people, but ultimately everyone knows he's the final decision maker and his own best messenger." Axios is now reporting that U.S. President Donald Trump got on a call with G7 leaders, where he said that Iran is close to surrender, adding that there is no leader left in Iran to make that call. This as G7 leaders urged Trump to ensure a quick operation, one that helps at opening the Strait of Hormuz. On his part, Iran's new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, maintains that seizure of Strait of Hormuz is crucial to pressure enemies. All right, joining us live from London is Greg Swenson. He is an international affairs expert. Thank you so much for joining us on WION, and welcome back, Greg. You know, we in the media love to talk about these divisions and inter-party divisions when it comes to the White House and beyond. So this report now says that the MAGA camp is divided over Iran's war. Economic advisors are concerned, understandably so, about high gas prices in an election year. But then you have Republican figures like Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton who are saying the job needs to be done. Don't leave without it being done. What are your thoughts?
Susan, it's a great question, and I kind of agree with Caroline Leavitt that there is debate and there should be. This is good discussion between and if there's some sort of argument between the real hawkish wing, as you mentioned, Lindsey Graham and Tom Cotton, and sort of the more of the J.D. Vance let's stay out of trouble wing. I think that's healthy. Generally speaking, the Republicans overwhelmingly support the action here, and it's not close. It's 80-20. I've seen a poll, it's 77-23, but generally speaking, it's at 80%. And of course, the Democrats are 20%. So that's to be expected given the partisan differences. But the MAGA base is even more hawkish on this action and more supportive of the president. They're 30 points more likely to strongly approve of the president's action in Iran versus the traditional country club Republicans. So I think the support is there. But I do understand there's debate about what's the near-term outcome, and of course keeping our eye on energy prices, which are higher, but not even close to what the volatility we saw during the Arab Spring 10 years ago, during the conflicts in the early 2000s. So this is yes, we have our eye on gas prices, especially here in the U.S. But on the other hand, it's not nearly as dramatic as conflicts in the past.
And Greg, another topic that people like talking about a lot. Let's try to debunk some of this together if we can. Is President Trump looking for an exit ramp?
No, I think the president knows that the annihilation of their military capabilities is the most important goal here. I don't think he needs an off ramp. I mean, I've never seen an asymmetric
Yeah.
fight like this one. I mean, the U.S. and Israel are overwhelmingly more powerful than anything that Iran can do. They're just firing random missiles and drones at this point. So I think, the obvious outcome is no nuclear capabilities, destroy the ballistic missile capabilities, eliminate the Navy, and stop the funding of the terrorist proxies in the neighborhood. And I think, we've pretty much accomplished the first three. Whether they're still funding the terrorist proxies, I don't know, but that's going to be really difficult with what's happened in Iran.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at the region, you don't really see some kind of Hamas retaliation, Houthi retaliation. I mean, Hezbollah to a certain extent. So that's really something to look out for. And finally, my final question. We see these drone attacks from Iran continuously happening. How long do you think this kind of war is sustainable for, considering the fact that it looks like the US and Israel have air superiority? It looks like their
Yeah.
navy is almost completely demolished, but you still see these random attacks coming out of Iran and hitting targets, notably in Israel.
Yeah, I think that's the most difficult and probably the most, nuisance or the most tedious are the drones because they're smaller, they can be launched really from anywhere. And I think that we have to stop the production of them. So it might take a little longer, but I think ultimately the elimination of the drones. My nephew's a fighter pilot on the Abraham Lincoln. He picked off a drone earlier this week, fired a missile from his F-18. Economically, that's not really sustainable, firing a, $500,000 missile at a $10,000 drone. But if you eliminate the production on the
Yeah.
ground and just pick off as many as you can, but preferably in bulk, when they're still on the ground. And that's happening. So, probably the missiles are gone, the nuclear capabilities gone, the Navy ships gone. So I think the drones will follow, especially if they can't be launched from ships because the ships are are sitting at the bottom of the Gulf.
Right. All valid points. Greg, thank you so much for joining us
Thanks,
on
Susan.
WION this morning. And a very big thank you from me to your nephew, to your brave nephew. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks, Susan.